there exists an invisible bank within your subconscious, a place where there are no steel vaults and no cold numbers, but only thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Every positive thought is a golden coin. Every word of gratitude is a deposit that yields interest, and every unwavering belief is a check of true value. And when you learn how to open an account in this infinite bank, the spiritual law begins to operate as a transcendent financial system, returning to you not only money, but also health, peace, love, and enduring prosperity. The concept of the invisible bank of the subconscious, there is a reality at work within you, silent yet unyielding, powerful yet unseen. It is the invisible bank of the subconscious, the sacred account directly connected to God. There are no iron gates, no vaults, no worth, for it does not belong to the material world. It exists in the deeper layers of consciousness, where every thought, belief, and image you nurture is recorded with precision as a spiritual deposit. Each positive thought is a coin deposited. Each affirmation is a certificate. Each feeling of gratitude is a check of infinite value. In this bank, there is no concept of lack. There are no limits and no conditions of borrowing. The balance in your invisible account is not measured in numbers, but in the vibration of your faith. A wise thought, a sincere prayer, a vision charged with emotion is instantly registered and begins to yield interest. Yet the interest here is unlike any financial system on earth. It does not multiply by a fixed percentage, but expands by miracle, by unexpected forms, by opportunities you never imagined. Those who know how to use the invisible bank no longer live in the fear of scarcity. They walk with the certainty that the flow of life is always abundant. If you deposit seeds of trust into this bank, you will harvest a golden season of peace and prosperity. If you nourish in your subconscious the image of health, you will see your body reflect wholeness. If you continuously saturate yourself with gratitude, life will keep offering new reasons to give thanks. This invisible account operates under an immutable law. You reap what you sow, and the subconscious repays in tangible form within your daily life. Many do not understand this law. They continually deposit counterfeit coins, toxic debts. Each time you allow fear to dominate, you have signed a check without guarantee. Each time you complain of poverty or blame others, you have entered worthless sums into your spiritual ledger. And when you attempt to withdraw peace from those deposits, what you receive is a return check, a closed door, an effort without fruit. The invisible bank shows no favoritism. It merely records and returns the exact currency you provide. Yet the good news is you always have the power to renew your account. You can cease depositing counterfeit currency and begin investing true value. A bold affirmation, such as "I am the channel of infinite abundance," immediately activates a living deposit. A vision you hold firmly in mind, in which you are healthy, free, and happy, becomes certified assets in the sacred bank. Each moment you pause to give thanks for something small, like a morning cup of tea or a stranger's smile. You add to your account a coin of purest gold. This invisible bank never sleeps. While you are at work, it is generating interest. While you rest, it is still in motion. While you are deep in sleep, your subconscious continues its silent labor, multiplying, weaving unseen threads to deliver what you have affirmed. A soon idea, a chance encounter, a timely invitation, all are the dividends of earlier deposits. Some call it luck, but in truth, it is the precise law of spiritual banking at work. Imagine that you truly possess an inner savings book. Each line written in it is not a number, but a belief, an emotion, an image. When you inscribe in your mind, I am worthy of abundance, you have added a deposit to your account. When you feel light and grateful for the food upon your table, you have recorded another entry. And when you choose blessing over resentment, trust over doubt, your balance rises with eternal currency. Scripture declares, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. That treasure is not the silver and gold outside, but the account you nurture within your subconscious. If your heart is filled with the counterfeit coins of worry and anger, your life will mirror shortage and disorder. But if your heart holds the spiritual gold of gratitude, faith, and clear vision, you will live in a world of wealth and serenity. The invisible account is the very place where outer experience is determined. Here is a vivid illustration. A woman lived in constant fear of finances, repeating each day, I don't have enough money. My life is insecure. These repeated words were negative deposits. The result was endless struggle, constant lack, and the harder she tried, the more exhausted she became. One day, she was guided to change her deposits. Instead of repeating lack, she began to affirm, I always have enough for every rightful need. I am the channel of endless wealth. She wrote these words in a small notebook and read them aloud each morning. At first, nothing changed outwardly, but within a few weeks, she received a new job with higher pay, and at the same time, an old debt was unexpectedly canceled. This was no random miracle, but the inevitable outcome of renewing her spiritual account. This invisible bank is the greatest treasure each person possesses. No one can take it from you. No economic crisis can freeze it. No failure can destroy it unless you cease depositing thoughts of value. It is always ready, always open, always responsive. The only requirement is that you remain aware of what you are depositing each day. You can become the wise depositor, the true wealth builder, by investing belief, vision, and gratitude. See every thought as a coin, every emotion as a bill, and every spiritual act as a deposit. Choose the sacred currency, not the counterfeit of doubt. Remember, the invisible bank cannot go bankrupt, never refuses, and always multiplies on your behalf. When you master your account with God, you will discover that lack no longer exists, for supply is within you. And the miracle is already secured. In every deposit you make, the principle of the invisible ledger, every bank has a ledger to record each transaction, and your subconscious carries such a ledger as well. It is an unseen book, yet absolutely precise, where every thought, every feeling, and every word you utter is inscribed as living data. Nothing is ever overlooked. Each thought you repeat becomes either a debit or a credit in that ledger. If today you plant a positive idea, tomorrow it will blossom into opportunity, into income, into unexpected help. If today you sow faith in health, tomorrow your body will gradually reflect restoration. The law operates with the same precision as the seed. And the harvest, what is essential is that you keep a spiritual savings book, an inner awareness of what you are depositing into the invisible bank. Not a physical notebook of paper, but the habit of recording within your mind. When you affirm, I am the channel of abundance, that is a credit entry. When you whisper gratitude for a simple meal, that too is a credit entry. When you pray sincerely for another, you are adding value to your account. On the other hand, when you complain, when you fear, when you imagine failure, Those are debit entries silently weakening your spiritual balance. The subconscious never errs. It records everything faithfully, and at the appointed time, it reconciles into lived experience. A seed never disappears. It waits for its season to sprout. In the same way, a thought charged with life never vanishes. It merges with corresponding images to create opportunities, encounters, inspirations, or unexpected income. This is the principle of the invisible ledger, recording, preserving, and multiplying according to divine law. You need not know exactly how it functions, nor trace the path it follows. You only need to trust that each time you sow a right thought, the harvest is certain. Have you ever paused to ask yourself, what am I inscribing today in my spiritual savings book? Are you letting negative lines fill its pages, or are you writing a golden record of faith and gratitude? This is not a rhetorical question, but an invitation to reflect in this very moment. For your presence here, listening to these words, is itself proof that you long to step into a different life, a life of order, of awareness, of abundant flow. I want you to picture it clearly, as though you are holding a small book in your hands. On the cover, you write the spiritual bank of, and then inscribe your full name. Each page is a day. On it, you record 3 specific things you are grateful for: a smile given to you, a breeze on a hot afternoon, a bill paid on time. These entries are more than memories. They are evidence of flow, numbers of growth in the invisible ledger. Each time you open and read them, you remind your subconscious that you are always cared for, always supplied, always guided, and this faith becomes the principle from which future dividends arise. The principle of the invisible ledger teaches another profound truth. No word, no feeling is without consequence. All are recorded and all return corresponding results. When you affirm with strength, I have enough, the subconscious records it as cash in hand. When you repeat, I am weak, I am powerless, the subconscious also records it as debt. It does not judge, it does not erase. It merely inscribes and repays. Thus, the choice lies entirely in your hands. Will you record entries of value or debts of despair? Think of the poor families of past generations who cherished a small savings book with only a few wages, yet it symbolized hope, stability, and the belief that tomorrow could be better. In the same way, you must have your own spiritual savings book. It is not for comfort only, but a working instrument of spiritual law. If you honor it, if you record in it faithfully, if you guard it with wholesome thoughts, it will become an inexhaustible source of wealth. I know you are here, listening to each word, and perhaps within you arises the memory of lines you once inscribed in fear or disappointment. Give thanks for the awareness itself, for the moment of recognition is also the moment you can begin to adjust. You need not erase the past. You only need to start writing new lines, clearer and stronger. So I ask you this question today. If you could record only one entry now in your spiritual savings book, what would it be? Would you write a complaint, or would you affirm a new truth? Would you repeat the past, or would you open the door to the future? Thank you for listening and for being present in this moment. For your very presence is a sign that you are ready to become the wise treasurer of your subconscious. And as you choose to inscribe the right thoughts into the invisible ledger, you are opening the harvest of abundance, peace, and miracle, opening a spiritual account. No one can benefit from a bank without first opening an account. The law of spirit operates with the same precision. You may long for prosperity, repeat inspired affirmations, read books, and hope for a miracle. But if you have never once officially declared the opening of an account in the infinite bank of the universal mind, then all remains but scattered wishes. The very moment you sign your name, the very moment you make a clear declaration, that is when the covenant is formed and the invisible bank begins to recognize you as a lawful depositor. Begin with a concrete act. Take a blank sheet of paper and write in your full name with clarity. Today, in conscious awareness, I open an account in the infinite bank of the universal mind. I recognize myself as a lawful depositor of prosperous ideas, peaceful thoughts, and joyful images. Every deposit I make is guaranteed by faith and multiplied by divine law. From this moment forward, my spiritual balance begins to increase. Then sign it, date it, and place it somewhere sacred, a spot you revere as a holy symbol. It may be inside your Bible, within a wooden box, or upon a small altar. The vessel matters less than the reverence you give to the act itself. When you do this, you are not merely writing a few words. You are engraving a command upon the subconscious. The deeper mind does not distinguish between legal contracts and spiritual declarations. To it, every word written with emotion and conscious clarity is law. From the instant you sign, the subconscious begins to operate like a bank that has opened its doors, ready to receive every deposit you make. After opening your account, it is crucial to maintain regular activity. Just as a bank account remains alive through transactions, so the subconscious requires consistent reinforcement for images to take root. Choose for yourself a simple, clear, and powerful affirmation. I am a lawful depositor in the infinite bank of the universal mind. My balance multiplies in peace, strength, and supply. Each morning, upon waking, repeat this affirmation 3 times, with the certainty of reading your very own account balance. This is no empty ritual, but the act of affirming ownership, like lifting your passbook each day and confirming its enduring worth. The next step is the practice of periodic declaration aloud at least once a week. Open the written statement, stand before a mirror, and read the entire declaration in a solemn voice. Hear the sound of your own words. For the subconscious records not only the meaning but the vibration of the spoken tone. Each reading engraves more deeply into the invisible ledger that this account is real, active, undeniable. Thus, you strengthen the conviction that you belong to an eternal bank that can never collapse. A businessman once came to me in despair. He had tried everything, yet his career remained stagnant. He read books, he prayed, he repeated affirmations, but nothing shifted. Upon questioning, I discovered he had never performed a formal act of commitment to his subconscious. I advised him to write a declaration, sign it, and place it within his Bible. He obeyed. The next day, he stood before his mirror, reading it aloud, and repeated this weekly. Within a month, a line of credit that had been denied him 3 times before was suddenly approved. He told me the difference lay in the feeling. He felt as though he truly had an account, and the invisible bank acknowledged him. This is the power of opening a spiritual account. When you formalize your faith, you step out of vagueness. You no longer merely wish you have signed. You no longer merely hope you have issued a command. Every tangible act, writing, signing, reading aloud, are symbolic gestures that the subconscious accepts as reality. Once recorded, it becomes law, irrevocable. Remember, a material bank requires documents and signatures to open an account. The invisible bank requires awareness and faith established through action. From the moment you open a spiritual account, Every positive thought becomes a deposit of value. Every expression of gratitude, every prayer, every clear image is recorded and multiplied. The balance of this account never diminishes. It only grows so long as you continue to deposit. And when the time comes to withdraw, you will receive in the form of opportunities, ideas, and unexpected aid. The invisible bank shows no partiality. It operates by law, and that law is exact. Whoever opens an account and deposits right thoughts will reap the fruits of peace and prosperity. Whoever neglects it or deposits counterfeit currency of fear, doubt, or resentment will face returned checks and empty results. Therefore, treat the opening of a spiritual account with the seriousness of a new life. It is a sacred contract between you and the infinite bank of the universal mind. And once you have signed, the doors of boundless wealth swing open not by luck, but because you have stepped into the operation of an immutable law, the standard of spiritual currency. Every bank has its own regulations regarding the kind of currency it accepts. You cannot bring in a scrap of paper and expect it to be credited to your account. The subconscious is the same. It does not record idle words, vague thoughts, or lifeless affirmations. Only those thoughts that meet the true standard become valuable currency in the invisible bank. These three standards are living emotion, systematic repetition, and unwavering conviction. Without all three, your thought is nothing more than a check without a signature or a bill, without the gold reserve to back it. First, emotion is the denomination of spiritual currency. A dry affirmation such as "I am wealthy," spoken without feeling, is no more than a small coin, almost without effect. But if you utter the very same words with deep gratitude, with a vibration in the heart, with joy overflowing, you have just issued a large bill into the invisible bank. The subconscious does not record logic. It records vibration. What you truly feel is the legitimate signature upon your spiritual check. Second, systematic repetition is the quantity of currency. A single strong affirmation may plant a seed, but it is daily repetition, morning and night, that allows the seed to take root. A physical bank accepts even small but consistent deposits, and over time the balance grows significantly. The spiritual bank works the same. Each day you repeat a thought with living emotion, you are adding to your account. Even just a few minutes each morning, carried on through many days, will increase your spiritual balance to the point of creating unstoppable power. Third, conviction is the gold standard. You may speak with emotion, you may repeat with diligence, but if deep within you still doubt, still think yourself unworthy, the currency you issue becomes devalued notes. The subconscious demands harmony between thought and belief. When you truly believe you are worthy, when you accept that what you affirm already belongs to you, then your thought is backed by pure gold and becomes genuine wealth. Ask yourself, what kind of currency are you issuing in your spiritual bank today? Are you signing checks that lack emotion, lack repetition, lack conviction? Or are you minting golden coins of faith, of living feeling, of steadfast practice? Your answer determines the balance of your invisible treasure. If you are listening now, I invite you to a small yet powerful act. Write in the comments the phrase, "I am ready to change," or even simply the number 1. That will be the sign of your very first signature upon your spiritual check. You have shown up, you have listened, and this small action engraves in your subconscious that you are serious about beginning. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for taking this first step toward turning thought into living currency. From this moment on, each time you affirm, remember, If even one of the three elements is missing, the thought becomes counterfeit money. So send forth only deposits of real value, signed with emotion, multiplied by repetition, and backed by conviction. When you do this, your invisible account will fill rapidly, and miracles will enter your life as the inevitable outcome of spiritual law, distinguishing genuine from counterfeit currency. A reputable bank will never accept counterfeit bills, however convincing their appearance may be. Without true value, they are instantly rejected. The invisible bank of the subconscious operates on the same principle. It receives every thought you send, yet only those with real value accrue interest and produce results. By contrast, the counterfeit coins of fear, complaint, and judgment are not only worthless but drain energy, depleting your spiritual balance. True currency in the spiritual realm is thought planted with faith, vibrant emotion, and systematic repetition. It becomes a healthy seed that takes root in the subconscious and blossoms into good experiences. Counterfeit currency hides behind familiar words and seemingly justified feelings. When you complain, "I never have enough money," when you resent life's unfairness, when you judge others or envy their success, you are issuing counterfeit notes. They are like return checks, invisible debts you must pay with fatigue, frustration, and missed opportunities. The mechanism of the subconscious is simple. It does not judge. It does not distinguish between good and evil. It only records whatever is deposited frequently and with strong emotion becomes the main entry in the invisible ledger. If you allow negative thoughts to repeat themselves, the subconscious will treat them as real currency and begin compounding negative interest. Fear will grow into obstacles. Complaint will manifest as lack. Judgment will turn into isolation. The more counterfeit currency you issue, the deeper you sink into depletion. To distinguish and correct, you need a precise method. The 3-column exercise is a powerful tool. Take a sheet of paper and divide it into 3 sections. In the first column, record the thoughts you often repeat throughout the day, even fleeting whispers. For example, "I fear I cannot pay the bills," "I am not as good as others," "I hate this job." In the second column, write down the dominant emotion tied to each thought: anxiety, envy, anger, or a sense of helplessness. In the third column, note the frequency. How many times in a day you think this? When you review the page, you will see a clear statement, like a financial report, revealing the counterfeit flows circulating in your spiritual account. They appear often, repeat persistently, and are eroding your invisible balance. But recognition is only the first step. The next step is transformation. Each complaint must be rewritten into a valuable affirmation. If the first column reads, "I never have enough money," rewrite it as, "I always have enough for my rightful needs." If it says, "I hate this job," change it to, "I am grateful this job is a stepping stone to greater opportunity." If it says, "I'm not as good as others," change it to, "I have unique value and my life reflects it." This transformation is like exchanging a counterfeit note for a coin of pure gold. Each time you rewrite, you issue a valid unit of spiritual currency with true backing. At first, the act may feel forced, like a merchant learning to discern small details to avoid being cheated. But with practice, you become sharper. At the flicker of a thought, you will recognize whether it is genuine or counterfeit, and you will develop the habit of exchanging it before it engraves itself into the invisible ledger. Observe the changes after just a few weeks of the 3-column practice. You will see the volume of counterfeit notes diminish while valuable affirmations increase. The subconscious records this shift as a new stream of transactions, and from there, your life begins to yield different results: an unexpected income, a career opportunity, a harmonious relationship, all dividends from the genuine currency you have persistently deposited in the invisible bank. Discipline is the key. The careful man always checks the origin of the money he handles, just as the wise man audits his thoughts. Whenever you hear in your mind the whisper of fear or complaint, stop immediately and replace it with a new affirmation. This does not mean denying reality, but issuing a higher value currency to replace it. Just as a nation gradually removes devalued notes and shifts to a stable system, so your mind constructs a solid framework of spiritual exchange. Distinguishing genuine from counterfeit currency is not merely a skill, it is a principle of life. It determines whether you live in spiritual poverty or in visible wealth. For no one but you is responsible for what is deposited into your subconscious. The invisible bank never closes. It always receives, always records, always repays in the very currency you have issued. If you desire prosperity, be certain that what you deposit is genuine. One day, when you look back, you will recognize that everything in your life is the outcome of past transactions. And from the moment you learn to distinguish genuine money from counterfeit, you hold the key to transform your entire spiritual balance. From then on, each thought, each emotion, each affirmation becomes a golden coin backed by faith, multiplied through repetition, and recorded forever in the infinite bank of the subconscious. And that is the sure path to enduring prosperity. Daily deposits in every financial system. Wealth does not come from a single large deposit, but from steady, consistent contributions over time. The invisible bank of the subconscious works in exactly the same way. Each thought is a unit of currency, each positive word a deposit slip, and each feeling of gratitude an investment that yields returns. Prosperity is not the result of a few moments of excitement, but the outcome of daily deposits sustained through discipline and awareness. It is essential to understand that gratitude is not the result of receiving, but the cause that opens the door to receiving more. The one who waits until results appear before giving thanks will always trail behind, always letting circumstances dictate their mood. The wise know that giving thanks beforehand, even when nothing is yet visible, is the true currency of the invisible bank. When you give thanks for a simple meal, you are declaring to your subconscious that you already have, and because you already have, more must come. When you bless the money in your wallet, you are signaling that the flow is alive, and that very recognition multiplies the balance. A simple yet powerful practice is to keep a gratitude journal for 30 days. Each morning, before beginning your work, write down 3 specific things you are thankful for, not vague statements such as "I am grateful to be alive," but concrete details the subconscious can clearly record. I am grateful for the hot cup of coffee on my table. I am grateful I have eyes to read. I am grateful for the stranger who smiled at me yesterday. These 3 small entries are your first 3 golden coins of the day. At night, before sleep, write 3 more. It may be a conversation with a friend, a task completed, or a quiet peace in your heart. In this way, each day you deposit 6 units of spiritual currency into the invisible bank, and in 30 days you will have 180 valuable deposits. This accumulation becomes vast capital, and its interest will appear in your life in unexpected ways. Alongside gratitude, learn to bless every source of income, whether it be your salary a comisión, or even a small gift, place your hand on it and quietly say, I bless this flow. I know it is only a channel, and my true supply is infinite. By doing this, you multiply the energy of money, turning it into seed for increase. Many make the mistake of complaining about small wages or criticizing their current work. They do not realize that such words are silent withdrawals, draining the invisible account. On the other hand, when you give thanks and bless even a small coin, you open the way for greater sums to flow. Not only money, but your work environment must also be blessed. Remember, the space in which you dwell each day is the soil where seeds of the future are sown. If you complain about your boss, co-workers, or clients, you plant negative seeds into that very soil. But if you quietly say, thank God for this place that gives me the opportunity to serve, thank you for allowing me to grow through this work, then you transform your environment into fertile ground. At that moment, you are not just working, you are investing in your invisible career. Furthermore, let your words be deposits of power. Every negative statement is a debt, every criticism a withdrawal, while every positive affirmation is a golden coin. You may choose to say, I am tired, life is too hard, and the invisible bank will record it, waiting to repay you with heavy experiences. Or you may choose to say, I am strong, I have the power to overcome, and the invisible bank will record this, returning it in the form of resilience and new opportunities. This is the principle of the inner voice, where every word is a command. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. When you return to that space and master the inner voice, you issue spiritual currency of infinite value. Imagine yourself as a disciplined depositor. Each morning you place 3 golden coins of gratitude. Each evening 3 more. Throughout the day, you bless money, work, and environment. Your words turn into shining silver pieces. All together they form a powerful stream of capital, and the invisible bank of the subconscious begins to pay dividends. Those dividends may arrive as a partnership opportunity, an unexpected income, healing in your body, or simply a lasting peace within your soul. Whatever the form, it is the inevitable result of your daily deposits. In the visible world, the wealthy are not those who deposit once and stop, but those who steadily contribute every day. In the invisible world, the spiritually rich are not those who pray once in desperation, but those who regularly sow into the infinite bank with gratitude, blessing, and constructive words. When you maintain this discipline, you will notice the difference. Anxiety gives way to peace, lack gives way to abundance, and new doors open continuously without your needing to knock. The invisible bank never refuses daily deposits. It always records, always multiplies, always returns in abundance. Gratitude is the cause, blessing is the capital, and your words are the signature. When you know how to employ all 3, you become a wise investor in the eternal bank of the subconscious. And this is the beginning of a life where prosperity is no longer a dream, but your natural state of being. The spiritual compound interest of the night. In the world of finance, compound interest is regarded as the most miraculous force, for it multiplies a small beginning into great wealth through nothing more than patience and time. In the spiritual realm, this law is infinitely more powerful because your subconscious never sleeps, and each night is the golden hour when spiritual capital expands. As the body rests and reason grows quiet, the subconscious works freely, engraving more deeply than ever the images you send it just before sleep. If the day is for planting seeds, then the night is for those seeds to take root and begin to sprout. To harness the power of spiritual compound interest at night, you must learn the art of precise visualization. Lengthy imaginations are unnecessary. Only a brief, vivid scene depicting the finished result. If you desire a new contract, picture yourself signing it. If you long for a dream home, see yourself stepping through the doorway, key in hand, breathing the scent of fresh wood. If you pray for health, envision yourself running along the shore, lungs filled with energy, body radiant with life. 10 to 15 seconds of such focused imagery, infused with strong emotion, is enough to plant a powerful seed in the vast vault of the subconscious. The essential rule is this: never visualize the process, only the result. Do not see yourself waiting for a call. See yourself having already received it. Do not imagine begging for a job. See yourself smiling with the contract in hand. If you dwell on the process, the intellect intrudes with questions of how, when, and where. But when you hold only the picture of the accomplished result, the intellect has no foothold. The subconscious accepts it as fact and begins to arrange all conditions necessary to bring it into being. 3 cycles mark milestones in building the subconscious: 7 days, 21 days, and 40 days. 7 days is the cycle of renewal. Like a seed sprouting roots, 21 days is the cycle of habit. When the image becomes familiar and entrenched, 40 days is the cycle of transformation. When the subconscious wholly accepts it and begins to restructure reality to match, each cycle compounds not only value, but speed of manifestation. One young woman illustrates this law vividly. She longed to open her own shop, but was haunted by fear of debt. I advised her, instead of worrying, spend 40 consecutive nights visualizing yourself opening the door, turning on the lights, and welcoming the first customer. Each night she held the scene for only 10 seconds, then surrendered to sleep. On the 12th night, she received unexpected financial support from family. On the 27th, a rental location appeared at a remarkably low cost. By the 40th night, she had signed the lease for her store. This was not random magic. It was spiritual compound interest at work. A middle-aged man, too, dreamed of stable work abroad. He was instructed to visualize for 21 consecutive nights the moment of opening an email that read, "Congratulations, you have been accepted." He did not know where the job would come from, but he believed and repeated the image. On the 23rd day, he received an actual email with a job offer from an international company to which he had never applied. This stands as living proof that the subconscious needs no roadmap. It only requires the image of the finished result. Spiritual compound interest extends beyond material gain. It transforms attitude and feeling. One who nightly visualizes scenes of serenity and health awakens in the morning with a changed spirit. Anxiety disorders and lingering fears gradually dissolve, replaced by deep assurance that life itself favors them. Such a person reaps not only tangible results, but also an invisible treasure, unshakable peace. Yet one crucial caution: compound interest cannot work if you continually withdraw capital through conflicting thoughts. If tonight you sow an image of success, but tomorrow morning you complain, "I don't know what to do," it is as though you withdrew the deposit before it accrued interest. Consistency is essential. You need not repeat the image all day, but you must not cancel it with negativity. Leave it in the invisible bank, and it will multiply on its own. A useful tool for maintaining consistency is a reminder card by your bedside. Write upon it, "I sow spiritual capital before sleep. Each night my capital grows in peace and certainty." When your eyes fall upon these words before sleep, you are signing an additional endorsement for your deposit. Remember, each night is a golden opportunity. You may allow the subconscious to dwell on scraps of worry and images of failure, or you may deliberately sow a clear picture of success. A farmer never leaves his soil empty in sowing season, knowing weeds will grow. Likewise, never leave your subconscious barren at bedtime, for if you do not sow, fear will sow itself. When you persevere through the cycles of 7, 21, and 40 days, you will notice undeniable change. First, a lighter attitude, then the arrival of opportunities, and finally the manifest result in your hands. This is spiritual compound interest. It requires no strained effort, no control over details, only the planting of an image, the holding of it with full emotion, and the trustful surrender to the subconscious for completion. The invisible bank of the subconscious never fails to yield interest, but it works only with capital deposited in conscious awareness, and each night, before closing your eyes, you hold the power to make a priceless deposit. Let the image of success become your secured asset, and when dawn arrives, you will see results emerging as the inevitable gift of spiritual law. This is how compound interest by night operates, and why your very sleep can become the richest treasury of your life. The consistency of your deposit. A wise investor does not place money into an account in the morning, only to withdraw it in doubt. Later that same day, he knows growth comes only when capital is left undisturbed, preserved, and given time to yield. The invisible bank of the subconscious functions the same way. You may deposit radiant images, powerful affirmations before sleep, but if the next morning you awaken with complaints and worries, you have unknowingly withdrawn your capital before it had the chance to accrue interest. Consistency is the irreplaceable principle in every spiritual transaction. The subconscious does not measure by fleeting wishes, but by the continuous flow of images and emotions. If at night you envision yourself receiving a great contract, but during the day you repeat, "I don't know when my work will ever improve," you have canceled your very deposit. It is like a farmer who plants seed one day and then digs it up the next to check for growth. Such action damages the seed, unsettles the soil, and delays the harvest. The invisible bank records with precision. It shows no favoritism. It does not judge whether you are worthy or not. It simply returns the exact currency you have given it. This is why contradiction is the greatest enemy of spiritual compound interest. One positive prayer at night can be neutralized by 10 complaints in the day. One vivid visualization can be blurred by repeated images of failure in the face of challenge. Every word, every image, every feeling is a transaction, and the subconscious tallies them all, leaving nothing out. To keep your spiritual capital from being withdrawn, you need a tangible reminder. A card by your bedside serves as an effective tool. Upon it, write clearly, "My spiritual capital grows as I sleep." Each night before rest, your eyes meet this line, and each morning upon waking, it is the first message you read. It is more than a reminder, it is a mental anchor, keeping you aligned with the deposit you placed in the invisible bank. By reading it, you affirm that your spiritual wealth is active, increasing regardless of outward circumstances. One woman testified to this principle. She had long visualized success before sleep, yet each morning, when her work email showed no reply, she sighed and thought, "Perhaps it will never happen." Months passed without change, but when she used a bedside card, each time she felt like complaining, her eyes recalled the line, "My spiritual capital grows as I sleep." That phrase kept her faith intact, preventing her from withdrawing her capital with contradictory words. Within weeks, she received the very opportunity she had been envisioning. Picture your spiritual capital as a stream of invested money. Each positive image is a deposit, each word of gratitude a coin, each joyful feeling a note of value. They rest securely in the invisible bank, accumulating and multiplying. But if you let doubt and worry intrude, it is like signing an early withdrawal slip, breaking the flow of interest. The subconscious does not punish, it merely records and executes. The secret then is to stop contradicting yourself. Consistency does not demand perfection or a life free of negative thoughts. It only requires conscious redirection. If you slip and mutter, "I can't take this anymore," correct it at once. "I have the strength to overcome." If an image of failure intrudes, immediately replace it with the picture of accomplished success. In this way, you prevent withdrawals from outweighing deposits, and you constantly reassert the value of your contributions. When consistency becomes habit, you will notice a profound shift. Faith will no longer waver with external fluctuations. You will walk with assurance, knowing your spiritual capital grows silently, and that outer results are but the delayed reflection. Like a long-term investor, you do not panic at short-term movements. You trust the process and let time work. The bedside card is only a tool, but it carries the weight of a spiritual contract. It reminds you that you have deposited and that your capital is still increasing. Each time you read it, you re-sign the agreement, confirming to the subconscious that you trust, and you wait. And this patience is the fertile soil in which seeds root deeply, sprout, and bear fruit. The invisible bank never breaks its promise. It simply reflects your loyalty to the deposits you have made. When you keep consistency, avoiding the contradiction of night and day, you establish for yourself a stable account where spiritual capital grows without ceasing. And at the appointed time, you will behold the harvest laid clearly before you, ripe, abondant, undeniable. The check of faith in material life. A check is proof of the right to receive a specific sum from your account. It is not money in itself, but a guaranteed order of payment issued by the bank, holding a valid check, with certainty that the funds are already there and will be paid at the proper time. In spiritual life, the check of faith works in the same way. It is a visible symbol of an invisible transaction already carried out in the bank of the universal mind. It is a payment order signed by your faith and guaranteed by divine law. To create a check of faith, all you need is a blank piece of paper, even the size of an ordinary check. On it, write the essential details clearly. First is the payee, your full and formal name, for you are the rightful beneficiary with authority to withdraw from your spiritual account. Next is the amount. Write the exact figure you wish to receive without shrinking in fear that it may be too large. In the invisible bank, there is no concept of big or small, easy or hard, only the concept of clarity and certainty. Then comes the purpose. Note it briefly, but specifically: payment for a contract, a new home, tuition for your child, or the healing of the body. This purpose directs the energy of the subconscious toward a definite channel of expression. The most important part of the check is the date of acceptance. Do not write a distant due date, for that signals delay. Write today's date and add, "I accept fully in the present." In this way, you declare that what you desire is already funded in the invisible treasury, awaiting only its outward appearance. Finally, sign the check with the phrase "Divine Law in Action." Asterisk. This is the powerful signature affirming that what you wrote does not rest on human effort, but on the immutable law of the universe. When the check is complete, place it somewhere sacred. It may rest within your Bible, in a wooden box, or upon a small altar at home. The place itself matters less than the reverence you attach to the act. Each day, take a moment to touch the check, close your eyes, and affirm, "This order has been approved by the infinite bank of the universal mind. I have signed with faith, and divine law is at work. I give thanks that this is already complete in the invisible world and will manifest in the visible world." The check of faith is not a symbolic game. It is the union of belief, imagery, and symbolic action. The subconscious responds powerfully to handwriting. For each stroke is an order engraved upon its hidden memory. Writing the amount engraves a clear picture of supply. Stating the purpose channels energy to a definite outcome. Signing declares certainty, and touching the check daily reactivates the command. Like a bank confirming the transaction again and again, many have testified that after writing a check of faith, within weeks they received the exact sum or an equivalent opportunity. Some wrote checks for healing and soon found the doctor, the therapy, or the inner shift that restored their health. Some wrote checks for a home, and then a series of unusual events opened the way to purchase their dream house. The common thread in all cases is not coincidence, but the precise operation of spiritual law. The check is simply the tool by which you affirm to the subconscious that the withdrawal has been ordered and will surely be carried out. Imagine walking into a bank to write a check. You do not sit and wait for the clerk to print the money in front of you. The order is recorded and the funds will be transferred in due course. Likewise, when you write a check of faith, you need not check every hour or fret about how it will come. You simply trust that divine law has received the order and is at work. By holding this faith, you allow the subconscious to labor without interruption, arranging external conditions so the order is perfectly fulfilled. One vital caution: do not write a check in the spirit of testing or doubt. If you write merely to see whether it works, you are signing with unbelief, and that is counterfeit currency. Write with assurance, as though drawing from an account. Already holds the funds. This certainty is the gold reserve that makes the check real. The check of faith is one of the most powerful tools for turning ideas into reality. It transforms invisible belief into a tangible object, forcing the mind to acknowledge it. It becomes the bridge between the world of thought and the world of matter. When you write, sign, place it reverently, and touch it daily, you are strengthening the cord that binds conscious mind, subconscious, and universe. And when that cord is strong enough, the result must appear. The invisible bank of the subconscious never refuses a check written in true faith. It only waits for you to sign the order and grant it permission to act. And when you do, one day you will find the check you once held in your hand has become reality in your life. That is not luck, but the inevitable working of divine law, which never errs. Tithing and circulation. The blood within the body must circulate if life is to continue. If blood ceases to flow, blockages bring disease and ultimately collapse. So it is with money, time, and spiritual energy. When they are held back by fear and selfishness, the flow is obstructed and dryness sets in. But when you allow them to circulate, you enter the divine law of rhythm, where giving and receiving are two sides of the same movement. This is the essence of tithing, not a restriction to bind you, but a doorway to continuous prosperity. Tithing in spirit is not only 10% of income devoted to good works, but also 10% of spiritual time devoted to service, prayer, and blessing. This is not a loss, but a collaboration with the universal flow. When you give 1/10 of your income, you signal to the subconscious that you trust in infinite supply. When you dedicate 1/10 of your day to speaking blessings, praying for others, and using words to build, you open additional channels for blessings to return. Picture the 10% plan as a double covenant with money. Choose a portion of your weekly or monthly income and dedicate it to creating value for others. It may be helping a struggling family, contributing to a charity, or simply preparing a meal for someone in need. The amount matters less than the spirit of circulation. Each time you give with faith, you are sending an order to the invisible bank that you do not fear lack, that you are the channel of endless supply with spiritual time. Consider 10% of a day as an offering of connection and service. A day holds 24 hours. 10% is 2.5. Break it into moments. 5 minutes praying for someone, 10 minutes writing affirmations, 15 minutes listening and encouraging a friend, an hour reading and reflecting on truth. These fragments of time may appear small, but each is a shining coin you deposit into the invisible bank. A symbolic tool that strengthens faith in circulation is the envelope marked Sacred Circulation. Prepare an envelope or small box and write those words upon it. Each week, place inside a portion of money or a slip of paper with a prayer, a blessing, or an idea to aid another. At week's end, release its contents to the right place. Money goes to need. Prayers are spoken aloud. Blessings are written and delivered. That envelope becomes living evidence that the flow moves through you. One merchant in Caracas practiced this principle during economic collapse. Though his income shrank, he maintained the habit of giving 10% of profits to support customers and community. And each morning he spent 15 minutes blessing all who entered his shop, whether they bought or not. Within months, his clientele doubled and revenues surpassed expectation. Asked his secret, he smiled and said, "I let money and words circulate instead of letting them sleep." Circulation never makes you poor. It is like a river. If dammed, the water stagnates and fouls. If allowed to flow, it carries fertile silt to the land and returns as new rain. So too with the mind, when blessings flow through you, they return in greater and richer measure. Remember, each time you cling to money in fear of loss, you send out the signal of poverty. Each time you pronounce blessing upon another, you issue a spiritual investment. Each time you give even a little, you prepare the way for greater abundance to return. This is the flawless working of divine law. Circulation bears a deeper meaning. It frees the heart from the chains of fear. To give is to prove to yourself that you trust the infinite source. And when you trust, you are no longer a beggar, but a co-creator. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. Asterisk. Each blessing you speak flows outward and echoes inward, reminding you that you live within an endless current. Tithing and circulation are not mere financial or religious practices. They are rhythms of life. They set you in harmony with the music of the universe, where giving and receiving form unbroken notes of the same song. When you dedicate 10% of money and 10% of spiritual time, you will discover a marvel. What remains is multiplied both in material supply and in inner peace. The invisible bank never overlooks an act of circulation. It records, multiplies, and returns in abundance. Therefore, begin today. Prepare your sacred circulation envelope. Write your 10% plan for money and time. Let each week stand as proof that you have joined the eternal law of flow. And as you look back, you will see clearly you never lost anything. You only became the wide river through which infinite supply moves, renews you, and nourishes the world around you, auditing your thoughts in every bank. The books are never left to chance. Each transaction, however small, is recorded, and from time to time, an audit must be made to ensure no leakage, no error. Your spiritual account requires the same. Thoughts are the invisible currency. Emotions are the interest attached, and the subconscious is the ledger of absolute precision. Without auditing, emotional leaks, unconscious reactions, and wasted expenditures of energy will gradually drain your spiritual balance without your even realizing it. Auditing your thoughts is the art of looking back and shining light upon what you've lived through in a week. Set aside a quiet time, perhaps Sunday evening or early Monday morning. Take a notebook and divide each page into 3 columns. In the first, write down the key events you experienced, from meetings and conversations to unexpected situations that stirred you. In the second, record your emotional response in each case. Do not embellish or justify. Be honest. I felt anxious. He felt excited. He felt hungry. I feel at peace. In the third, evaluate the energy balance. Did this emotion lift me, calm me down, or leave me neutral? Once complete, you hold before you a transparent report. You will see that some events, seemingly minor, drain vast amounts of energy. A single complaint from another may have robbed you of hours in frustration. A fleeting thought of fear may have returned again and again, silently withdrawing from your spiritual account. Conversely, you will also see moments, brief yet powerful, that recharged you. A word of gratitude, an act of kindness, a sincere prayer al valuable deposits. The audit reveals the gaps in your energy flow. The next step is the prayer of adjustment, as an accountant closes the books and restores balance. Speak aloud or write down an affirmation. I adjust my spiritual balance. I release the burdens that drained my energy. I retain what is constructive and add peace to my account. I reconcile my ledger with divine order and step into the new week balanced. This prayer is not mere ritual. It is an invisible reconciliation. Your subconscious receives the order as a bank receives a statement and immediately adjusts. Negative emotions no longer hang, suspended like unpaid debts. They are released and canceled. Positive feelings are recorded as remaining capital, ready to bear interest in the week ahead. Each prayer of adjustment closes the old cycle and opens a new one in inner order. Some think this review consumes time, but in truth it saves more than you imagine. A businessman once confessed that before practicing thought auditing, he often collapsed in exhaustion, though his work advanced. After adopting the 3-column method, he discovered that more than half his energy leaked away in complaints and anger during meetings. By recognizing and adjusting through prayer, he learned to pause before erupting, replacing outbursts with silence and breath. Within weeks, not only did his health improve, but his efficiency at work soared. Thought auditing also serves as an alarm system. It shows you early the trends that may become destructive habits. If week after week you record many lines of financial anxiety, you will see that this thought pattern dominates the ledger and must be replaced. If anger keeps recurring, you will recognize it as a spiritual debt that must be erased through forgiveness. Acting promptly, you prevent deficit before it deepens. The key is to do this without self-condemnation. Auditing is not self-accusation, but clarity and correction. A skilled auditor does not scold the numbers. He restores balance. So you need not blame yourself for anger, worry, or careless words. Simply record and adjust so that next week's ledger is cleaner. With steady practice, thought auditing becomes a habit of inner transparency. You will find yourself less swept away by negative emotions because you know they will be recorded and corrected. You will also feel greater motivation to sow positive thoughts because you want to see the ledger filled with valuable deposits. Each prayer of adjustment will bring relief, as though clearing an old room and opening the door to new light. The invisible bank misses no transaction. It records every thought, every feeling, every reaction. Yet you hold the power to govern your own books through review, reconciliation, and correction. When you learn to audit your thoughts, you become the wise steward of spiritual wealth. And when your inner life is ordered, clear, and balanced, the outer results will reflect it exactly. This is the power of closing cycles in inner order and entering each new week with freedom and prosperity, canceling inner debt through forgiveness. In the world of finance, no balance sheet can be clean if bad debts still remain. They occupy space, distort the numbers, and hinder growth. In the spiritual world, it is the same. Every resentment, every sense of guilt, every memory left unforgiven is like an unpaid debt, gaining compound interest in silence, draining energy and blocking the entry of new blessings. To expand spiritual capital, you must cancel those debts. Forgiveness is not indulgence toward others. It is the act of liberating yourself. Picture this. Each time you recall an old hurt and your heart tightens, you have just paid another installment of invisible interest on that debt. Each time you reproach yourself for a past mistake, you have added a new line to the debt ledger of your subconscious. These transactions never vanish unless you formally decide to close the account. Forgiveness is the audit. It is your declaration to the invisible bank that the debt is settled, no longer affecting your present balance. A powerful method is to write a letter of emotional debt cancellation. Take pen and paper and pour out every weight you still carry: betrayal, injustice, self-blame. Write with total honesty, no need to conceal, no need to be polite. Then, at the close, add these lines: I choose to forgive. I choose to cancel this debt. I will no longer allow it to govern my spiritual balance. I am free. Asterisk. That letter becomes your certificate of settlement. Once written, you may take one of two symbolic actions: either burn the letter, watching the ashes rise as proof the debt is gone, or fold it, seal it in an envelope, and write across it "settled." Place it in a discreet spot, as if the record were archived and no longer influencing active books. The subconscious receives this act as a confirmation stamp and frees you from its invisible weight. Some ask, does forgiveness mean approving another's wrongdoing? The answer is no. Forgiveness is not agreement, nor is it forgetting. Forgiveness is simply deciding that the past will no longer withdraw from your capital. It is the cancellation of debts in the ledger, so you no longer pay interest on old emotions. Forgiveness is an act for yourself to be free, to enter the flow of prosperity without being shackled to yesterday. One man illustrates this truth. Betrayed by a business partner, he carried bitterness for years, sleepless, declining in health, with work faltering. When guided to write a debt cancellation letter, he spent a long night weeping and writing. At last he burned the letter and whispered, I release this to the universe. I keep freedom for myself, asterisk, within weeks. His spirit grew lighter, his health improved, and new business opportunities appeared, not because the partner had changed, but because he had canceled the inner debt and released his spiritual capital. Others carry debts against themselves, treating their conscience as a creditor without end. Yet spiritual law does not demand you remain imprisoned in remorse. It demands that you learn correct, and then close the account. A mother once grieved for not giving enough time to her child in youth. When she practiced writing a cancellation letter to herself, she penned, "I forgive myself. I did all I could with what I knew then. I choose love instead of judgment." Asterisk burning the letter, she said it felt as though a stone had fallen from her chest. From then on, she lived closer to her family, not in guilt, but in love. Now I ask you, is there a debt in your mind still unsettled? Someone whose memory tightens your heart? A mistake you still carry, like a life sentence against yourself? Be honest with this question, for it may be the knot preventing you from the prosperity you long for. If you have listened this far, I know you have the courage to face that debt and cancel it. Thank you for daring to confront and to walk the path of release. When you forgive, your subconscious records that a page of debt is closed. The freedom you feel is not fleeting emotion, but the opening of new capital. The energy once drained by resentment and guilt is converted into creative power, into ideas, opportunities, peace. Forgiveness is the act of debt settlement that releases new wealth. The invisible bank of the subconscious retains no debt once you choose to cancel it. It faithfully records forgiveness as a completed transaction, and from that moment you stand as rightful owner of a fresh spiritual balance, no longer burdened by the past. Perform this act with solemnity and certainty, and you will see life open before you light. Free and abundantly rich, the vault of eternal values. In every great bank there is a central vault, not for daily transactions, but for gold reserves, original deeds, and treasures beyond replacement. That vault is the foundation guaranteeing the stability of the entire system. Your subconscious also requires such a vault of eternal value, a place to hold 3 root convictions, 3 bars of spiritual gold that no turbulence can shake. The first conviction is times God is the infinite source. Asterisk. This is the foundational truth. For if you forget it, worries about money, work, or opportunity will overwhelm you. When you remember that supply does not come from a person, a company, or a contract, but directly from the boundless spring of life, fear of lack vanishes. External channels may close, but the source never runs dry. The loss of a job does not mean the loss of life. The shutting of one door does not extinguish the light. When this conviction rests in your vault, your mind stands as firm as rock against every storm. The second conviction is times I am the heir. Asterisk. You are not a beggar hoping for luck, nor an outsider pleading for a share. You are the rightful heir of the divine inheritance, a joint partaker of all the blessings of the universe. This is not arrogance, but a proper recognition of identity. When you believe you are heir, you walk in confidence, you approach every good, not with guilt, but with rightful claim. An heir does not worry whether the inheritance will come, for the right is already theirs. They need only arrive at the appointed time and sign. So it is with your subconscious. Once it engraves this conviction, it grants you access to the treasure that has always been yours. The third conviction is times good is a continuous flow. Asterisk. The universe is not a locked vault, but a circulating system. Good never ceases to move. It flows from the source into every channel and returns again to continue. With this understanding, fear of loss disappears. Whatever leaves your hand in love returns to you in new form, richer and fuller. This current never stops. The only dams are those we build with fear. Engrave upon your mind that good is a continuous flow, and you allow yourself to open, to participate, to be washed clean of all dryness by the river of grace. These 3 convictions are the gold reserves of the mind. When the world trembles, when economies falter, when relationships shift, you can return to the vault of eternal value, There the truth cannot be erased. There you find your firm ground. No storm can rob you of these three jewels unless you yourself release them to keep the vault shining. Practice a daily ritual of visitation. Spend a few minutes morning or evening. Close your eyes and picture yourself entering a strong, radiant chamber. Inside are three treasure chests. Upon the first are inscribed the words, "Times God is the infinite source." Asterisk. Upon the second, "I am the air." Asterisk. Upon the third, "Good is a continuous flow." Approach each chest, place your hand upon it, speak the words, and feel the energy radiate. This is not mere imagination, but the act of depositing these convictions more deeply into your subconscious, securing them as unchanging gold reserves. You may strengthen this further by writing the three convictions on cards and carrying them with you, or by recording them in your own voice and listening each morning and night. In this way, your inner voice becomes the vault's guardian, reminding you to return when the outer world tries to pull you into chaos. When doubt rises, remember the vault. When fear knocks, open it and touch the truth. When faith wavers, revisit it and see that the guarantee remains intact. A bank vault protects physical assets against market fluctuation. The vault of eternal values within protects your spiritual wealth against the upheavals of life. And with just one daily visit, you will find yourself steadier, freer, more serene. For you know that all good springs from the infinite source, that you are the rightful heir of divine inheritance, and that good is a river ever flowing through your life. The joint account in finance, a joint account carries unique power. When two or more people sign together, sharing both responsibility and benefit, the flow of money multiplies not only through capital, but through the resonance of shared trust. In the spiritual life, it is the same. When families, partners, or groups agree in visualization and affirmation, energy is amplified exponentially. One united prayer, one shared image, one collective belief wields a power far beyond scattered individual efforts. The core requirement of a joint account is clarity of purpose. You cannot simply say, "We want things to be better." Asterisk for vagueness is the enemy of the subconscious. A definite goal must be set with numbers, with time, with feeling. For instance, instead of saying, "We want financial stability," declare, "We envision our family income increasing by 30% within 6 months, in joy and harmony." Asterisk, the more precise the goal, the stronger the joint account. Once the goal is clear, assign roles. One person may hold the vision of the accomplished result, imagining the family gathered in the new home or the company signing a major contract. Another may carry the role of gratitude, speaking daily thanks, as though the goal were already fulfilled. A third may recite affirmations aloud, sustaining the atmosphere of faith. Each role is a pillar, together supporting and nurturing the spiritual capital. Another key element is the shared password, a short, potent affirmation repeated daily by all members. It may be, "We have received and we are grateful," asterisk, or "Our joint account always yields increase," asterisk. Each repetition tunes everyone to the same frequency, as if entering the same access code to open the invisible bank. You may also keep a joint checkbook of goals, purchase a small notebook, and each week write within it a symbolic check representing the shared goal. 1 week, a tuition payment; another, a new contract; another, a family vacation. Each member signs, and the group affirms together that the goal is already accomplished. This is not ritual only. It is the sealing of collective faith, compelling the subconscious of all to record a joint transaction, to maintain consistency, schedule joint prayers or affirmations. Perhaps every Monday morning the family gathers 5 minutes to repeat the password, visualize the goal, and give thanks. Perhaps every Sunday night the partners spend 10 minutes on the phone affirming together. Duration matters less than regularity. Such shared repetition is like recurring deposits, causing the joint balance to grow without ceasing. The strength of the joint account lies not only in outward results, but in inward harmony. When a family or group unites around a goal, arguments diminish, doubts weaken, divisions heal, each person becomes a mirror of faith for the others. If one falters, the rest uphold them with vision and gratitude. This resonance creates a sturdy inner environment where any seed can easily root. It also heals silent divides. Many families sit together while their minds wander to private anxieties. Many business partners share an enterprise, while each imagines a different outcome. When a joint account is opened, all step into a single space where image, word, and feeling merge. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. Asterisk. When a group lifts its voice together, it not only resounds outward, but creates a sacred space where each soul is sustained and bound together. The invisible bank makes no distinction between personal or joint accounts. It only mirrors what is deposited. But when many contribute the same spiritual currency with the same password, the same affirmation, the same vision, the power multipliers beyond arithmetic. Results emerge not as mere addition, but as abundant multiplication, like a field sown all at once, sprouting, blooming, and yielding a great harvest together. Therefore, if you have a family